got here? I was messing around the other day and apparently my base is not rated somehow. Okay. Fun stuff. What do I want to do? Nothing really. Let's talk about real estate. So, kind of like the real estate 101. It's probably just trying to get past that hurdle of actually making, to lean towards purchasing properties and stuff. I know a lot of people fall for that. Um, but, yeah, I'm gonna figure out what I want to do here first. Then we get into it. Okay. Yeah, so obviously real estate is a really good investment to get into. There's always, risks, and that scares a lot of people. So, and that's probably the first major jump that people need to do. And just work towards getting your first property. And obviously, there's a couple of ways to do that, but kind of explain how I got started. Because it's easier to explain how I started things. Going back, what you should do, but kind of learn as you go. So, yeah, of course. Pretty much my real estate adventure started when I was renting. I looked at an apartment complex that had 12 units per building. I think it had about 8 buildings. I just looked up at it and I was like, this can cost more than like $500,000. Sounds like a lot still, especially when it's making $10 an hour. But I just looked up at it and I was like, man, that's insane how much money they're making. I wasn't jealous or anything. But yeah, so I was just more so admiring the fact that they made so much money. I think the NPCs are dead. They would turn around. Yeah, so obviously it's when I looked at it, it wasn't like $500,000 building and started making a ton of rent. I was paying it's like $685 a month, and I mean that was just for a 1-bedroom. Then I looked at it, even if they're all 1-bedroom, you got like 10 apartments, about $1,000 a month, $500,000 building. Now, obviously, I didn't know all the details about it, all the expenses that are involved with it. That would all come from, I would learn all that studying real estate. But yeah, with, you know, how I got started was, you know, just like inspiration, looking at that, saying that, you know, that's kind of what I want. I want that building. Yeah. So, I'll be honest, I don't have that building yet, so I'm still working towards my goals there, but I still had great success with real estate, so I think there might be somebody around here. Yeah. Let's see if you can find a man here. Definitely looted everything. Here we go. Oh, got a good shot on him. What bag is mine? Oh, not that one. Get back to it. I still need to get scrap. Yeah, so obviously, one of the key aspects of real estate is just knowing your numbers. And that was kind of something that was drilled into every book that I read. Just always about knowing the numbers and making sure that the purchase makes sense. So probably, um, I don't know if you know, if you guys ever heard the saying, you know, it's basically you make your money on the purchase. Um, and that's kind of like a rehabber thing, but so you would definitely make sure that you know your market. So, for example, like when you know, obviously I saw that big building for $500,000, so you can kind of get an idea of what kind of market I'm in. Not in California, you know, where you can buy you know, basically a 200 square foot bungalow for like $2 million. Um, but you know, most of the houses around my area are probably around 300 grand. It's gonna be like single family homes, but you obviously want to make sure that you're trying to buy. You know, I prefer to buy multi units. I feel like the single family homes they appreciate a little bit better. You know, my one single family home I sold off after you know all the you know rises in housing prices, and it was great. I mean, it's good to have that single family home for that purpose. But I sold it off as soon as you know the market made sense. But I kept all my multi units. And the reason being is the multi units just they don't rise like that, right? You know, the single family housing market does. Um, it's a lot more based on numbers. So if you, you know, are looking for cash flow, you're going to focus on your numbers, um, and you kind of base the house value off of those numbers. So a good example would be something like, if you have 1,000, two units, and each one is $1,000 in rent per month. One of the first things is obviously you got $2,000 a month. It's $24,000 a year. And so that's weird. Let me turn this down actually, so it's not so loud. So while it makes sense, $24,000 sounds great. And there's some cardinal rules that you can kind of work on that. The general rule is that the house value is about 1% of the rents. So it's $24,000 a year, or it's actually per month. So if the rents are $2,000, then you want the house for under $200,000. Cardinal 1% rule is not really super accurate, but it gives you a good baseline on if the house is even worth looking into. Of course, you'll get into where you really got to run the numbers like the expenses, and of course, you're not going to know all the expenses either. So there's things that you can't know. Like how much repairs costs, how much vacancy is there. And these things you just need to take an educated guess. So when I bought my first property, it was actually a single family unit, and it was one that I actually lived in for a year and a half. And after a year and a half, me and my wife, we finally were like, what, let's we did buy. We bought the single family home. That's the home that I actually kept for a little bit and made a bunch of money, because at the time it didn't make sense to sell. Bought the house for 58 grand. Minor work to it. And it ended up being making twice what I paid for. After being able to live in it for a year and a half, I also rented it out for about 5 years, and made a little bit of money there. Like I said, single family homes don't really do that great, so they shouldn't be a super, they shouldn't really be a big priority. So now I'm sure there's probably people thinking like, single family home, is what people buy, and you get more units, you're commercial, right? So it's not true. It's residential up to 4 units, which is a great benefit to anybody getting started. It's one of the big things that people can take advantage of are things like the FHA loans and just your standard conventional loans, even allow up to 4 units. They're residential units. The only requirement would be that you move into one of the units. That's exactly what I ended up doing. So I was, finished with the, I lived at my single family for a year and a half. I got, it's like I want to start these investments, and I, finally jumped on this 4 unit that I saw. Actually jumped on a few, but finally got to settle on a 4 unit. that I found right next, a town right next to me. And is that a horse? 'Cause I really could use a horse. Yeah, I swear I hear a horse. Um, I used that. I didn't really have the 1% rule in mind when I was looking at it, um, but I think it's still met. So it was a $245,000 home. That's a deer. The home was 245,000. It was a 4-unit, and rents at the time probably in the ballpark of, I want to say 700, something like that. Um, but they weren't perfect, but yeah, definitely within the 1% rule. And the that. Yeah, so it's in the, I had the 1% rule there, I guess, but I wasn't really thinking about that stuff. So I ended up putting my numbers using what I calculated. This first house was actually well below what I think was the standard for my area at the time. Um, should have been about a 10% um, capitalization rate, and I'll explain that, later. But essentially, it's the rate of return that when I calculated all my expenses, I ended up determining that it was only worth about, it was about 220,000, something like that. Obviously, that's, kind of, you wouldn't accept that low an offer. We did end up taking 245. The original price was 250, I believe. Took 245 with 6% seller help. So I also got like another just under $6,000 of seller help, which is technically a reduction in price. So, yeah. So, um, so I ran all my calculations, and I ended up figuring that. Um, Figuring that, it's good enough for starting. You know, I got about it's like an 8.5% capitalization rate when I did my calculations. And I did all the selling and everything, and I moved into one of the units. Luckily for me, one unit was vacant. Or actually, 2 units were vacant, but I moved into the smallest one. Oh, that was stupid. Get a break. Actually, I really don't need all that scrap. I keep completely destroying everything. Waste my time when I really just need to get the outposts. Yeah, okay. I don't even know where I left off at. Alright, so let's just get some stone. So I moved into the cheapest apartment, and at the time, all the rents were pretty low. But one of the reasons why I accepted the low capitalization rate is because I actually thought that I could probably make a bit more down the road. I felt like a lot of the rents were raised, and there was potential. So there was a lot of expenses that didn't have to be there. One of the expenses was gas and oil. So this is actually like a duplex. So there was two sides, 2 units each side, and the one side was fueled by oil, and that was the side that I lived with an upstairs tent with a downstairs. The other side was gas heat. However, the upstairs was already above that unit was already supplied with electric baseboard. So I knew that would be a very easy bill to get rid of. I think it ran somewhere around $600 or $700 a year. So like these are all things that I was thinking about while I was doing that. You shouldn't buy like that. But that's how I was buying at the time. So you should be buying the house as it is, and not with what its potential is. But that's just the way that I got started into it. So it ended up working out really well for me. So I think that's kind of what fixed my hesitation on buying more properties. Those did fine, even though theoretically it was not a big deal. Yeah, but I did know that there was some of these quick fixes. So I just the only thing that made me require paying for the gas was that there was a hot water heater on the one unit, and it was a gas hot water heater. All I did was run a 30 amp circuit, plumb some water lines in, and at the time I was not very good at plumbing or anything. Electrical I had a little bit of knowledge about, but it was simple stuff. It wasn't getting into anything crazy. Literally just running a cord through the walls, or well, through the ceiling joists. So it's really simple stuff. At the time, wiring was a little bit cheaper, but still talking about I spent, I believe it was about $300 on a water heater, maybe like another $200 in supplies, with the fittings, um, hot water, flex hoses, and stuff like that. So, um, it's not coming up. Oh, let me put $10 my low grade. Um, yeah, so, um, no, I can fit that in here though. Let's go real quick. Alright, yeah, so, yeah, yeah. So I mean, it worked out good, obviously, because I'm where I am now. But yeah, jumping the gun on not a poor deal, but not quite fair deal. Still did fine. Let me turn this chat off because man, it's like get toxic. Um, and and it was just these little things, So it's been 700. I probably spent about $700 in materials to save $700 a year. But that, I saved that $700 first year. So 100% investment is well worth it. Now, obviously, there's like my time. Um, and I did things a little bit differently then. I used to use a lot of shark bites, for plumbing. I just didn't know how to solder or anything like that. Very skilled at, on home renovations. Um, but now it's kind of, normal. Learn all that stuff as you go. Um, and the other set was even better. So I had oil heat at the time, and the cost of oil was insane. Um, and I had this plan on getting gas ran to the house. These are all things I kind of looked into before even purchasing it. I was like, is there gas lines around the property? There is. Because it has oil right now. I didn't realize like how bad oil was until I started using it. That's probably spending $400 a month, trying to fill that tank up. Um, and so my first thing was to try and get rid of this oil, but it supplied heat upstairs. So obviously I had to learn a little bit more about electrical. Um, yeah, it's probably, I think I only waited a year to do this upgrade, where I put the electric baseboards upstairs, just ran them through the walls. It was a little bit easier because I was in a downstairs apartment, so it was easy to cut a couple holes in the wall and just run it up there. And I did it when the first tenant left, so it didn't interrupt anything. But you could do it while the tenant's here too. I mean, there's nothing stopping um, from doing that. And, it just is, it's just how it is. Um, so I ripped out all the radiators and stuff, and in place of where the radiators where it kind of messed up the walls. Um, just from years of different paint and stuff. I didn't even paint it. I just ended up um, putting the electric baseboard around those areas, and it covered up pretty nicely. Um, uh, and wiring it wasn't that difficult. You know, you do need to learn a little bit. I remember like trying to figure out like how do I size baseboards? Where do I put them? And things like that. And it's all things that you learn over time. Um, you'd be surprised. It doesn't take many BTUs to heat a house. Back in the day, they did a lot of overkill. So you have 1,500 square house being heated by 100,000 BTU, boiler. That's way overkill. Which is exactly how my first house was. um, 80,000 BTU unit. And it's really nice that it can heat the house really quickly, but that's actually bad. So um, too many short cycles. But like I said, that's just generally how they did things back then. So um, boiler had great at heating the house very quickly, but I um, wanted to get rid of it. So I ended up looking heavily into plumbing, electrical, gas lines, all sorts of things. And these are all things I could have hired out and still saved a ton of money. But yeah, I was like, I'm living in the unit and I can do this myself. So, and ended up switching um, from oil to gas, and from like a regular boiler system to a high efficiency combination boiler, which would be a hot water and gas or and heat, and it's instant hot water, instant quote unquote, um, but forever hot water. And I have a tank. Um, so it's kind of two folds. It was going to save me electric because instead of always heating water, you only heat it on demand. And like how a hot water heater, you can expect about $30 a month for those 40-gallon hot water heater systems. More if you have a large family that's constantly heating. It was just me and my wife, so it was about I saw about $22 dip for me. Um, and then for gas, I ended up um, I didn't know how much I was actually going to save at the time, but um, I saved the money upstairs through the oil, so I didn't have to pay heat for them anymore. And it's just doing those electric heaters was enough to get the um, it was enough to get the oil to last about a month and a half. It wasn't really that significant. $800 for 3 months instead of $800 for 2 months. It did help a little bit. um, so that was nice. And then the let me just go down to auctions. Yeah, so the um, when I switched over to that new boiler system, um, it was in my name. Like it was for heating my unit. I did that boiler system for. I went from like a $400 bill for every month and a half after removing, installing the electric heat upstairs to about $30 a month. The highest bill I had on it was $70 on the coldest month. Most of the months were about 30 to 40, and during the summer, it's pretty much just a customer charge. It was like $10 from UGI. Huge savings. Um, well worth the cost of the unit. I think I spent about 3 grand after the rebate. So at the time, I think it was an $1,800 rebate. Um, what? No. Um, and so I probably spent about, I don't know, somewhere around 5 grand materials, but then I got an $1,800 rebate back. And that rebate, obviously paid for, for all that. I need to go this way. I need to run a little bit of road. um, within the first year, I think I probably saved over $3 grand in heating and electric bills, because I went from, you know, 20, 20 something dollars in, electric that I saved to a $10 customer fee charge basically for the hot water from everything. That's just how efficient it was. Um, but just doing things like that. It was things that I was planning ahead on, but it wasn't something I really knew how much it would have affected the whole equation. So it was more of just a guess, to be honest. But I mean, at the time, I wasn't very knowledgeable about real estate, aside from what I read in books. Unfortunately, there's you read all the books in the world, and it just there's always going to be things that you're not going to anticipate until you get into the real world. And those are also all things that were in the expenses of the building. So that kind of goes hand in hand with the capitalization rates. When you have, I try to buy things based off of capitalization rates. It's not what everybody does, but that's just how I do it. Because that's no debt return on investment basically. It's how much you would get a return on without debt. And debt is too volatile, so it's just not something I wanted to calculate. Let's see if there's more in here. I should have brought a pipe. They're active or not. Let's yeah, it looks like, oh no, this is great. That's not very long. Oh, well, it's okay. Put one of these on. Oh, parachute. I've never used the parachute yet. Off. Let's get back home. Is there another? Oh man, it's getting late. I really don't know if that's an active group or not. Their windows are open. Grab some ladders and head up there. Okay. Yeah. So the capitalization rate. So the whole thing with I want to explain capitalization rate because that's how I how I calculate a value of a property and stuff. Um, I'll kind of run an example. So if rent is $1,000, the net or the gross profits is 12,000. actually more difficult to talk about a subject while gaming. Yeah, than I thought. I didn't think it would like distract me so much. Um, does it's just kind of you hear things and you're like, oh, I need to pay attention real quick. Um, but I'm just playing the game for fun. So if I die, it's whatever. Hopefully, I don't get people that are like complete douches. Ruin it. Come on. But the um, so if you have $1,000, yeah, let's get back to this. So if you have $1,000 a month rent, the $12,000 gross income, is one of the first numbers you need, obviously. One of the second number you need to calculate value is um, expenses. Um, so expenses would be everything that you can think of, um, from uh, from your bills to property management, uh, vacancy estimations, stuff like that. So I mean, a good general rule. It's also good estimation on this. Yeah, a good estimation would be to um, would be about 6% vacancy, about 6% repairs. Um, Obviously, that really depends on how the area, how bad the house is. So if the house looks like it's run down, well, then you should be calculating the repair costs right off the bat before you even bother with things like the purchasing of the property. If it needs a $10,000 roof, you know, you have to calculate that in the purchase price right away. Um, so, but you see, if it's in disarray, if it needs paint, simple things that don't, or new windows, things that don't necessarily add value but add interest. Um, that's where you really want to increase your repair um, estimate. So I have a property that um, was in pretty bad shambles, um, but it worked. And I put in a 12% repair. I doubled it. That way I could just have extra money to do the repairs a little bit quicker, and just repair a little bit quicker for that property. But most of my properties are about 5-6% for repairs. Vacancies are usually about 5 to 10%, but that also is dependent on the area. If you're in an area that's saturated, your vacancy is going to be higher. If it's a you know if there's a whole list of people that are looking for apartments, and you're going to be golden. You won't even have a vacancy, just maybe a little bit for you know in between tenancies, or um, if you have to do an eviction, stuff like that. So, but you always want to calculate it, at least something. So 5% is a good number if you're in a good area. 10% if you're a little bit more sketchy on getting your unit rented out all the time. Um, the so you would calculate things like that, and you would calculate that off of your gross income. So if your gross income is 12,000, let's just say it's 5% vacancy, 5% repairs, just for simplicity, 10% total. Um, how we would want um, say 10% for management. I think generally they're about 8%, but 10% management, so you have 20% um, of 12,000. So you have 2,400 that you would actually deduct from 12,000, and that would bring you to 9,600. Now that 9,600 is starting to get close to your net income, but you might still have some bills. So you have $100. Let's just say you have you know $600 worth of utility bills like water bill, gas, sewer, whatever else. Let's just say it's about $600 a month, or $600 for the year, just for easy calculation. Because likely you won't pay electric. It's usually water, sewer. Um, it's probably on the low end, but yeah, so $600 that brings you down um, to 9,000. And then let's say you have um, so you have trying to think what else there might be. Well, I mean that just covers some of the estimates. If I generalize all the utility bills into one, um, and so you have a house or a net income of $9,000. Um, so in order to calculate that, what you have to do is you need to um, figure out your capitalization rate. And like I said, generally it's about 10% in most areas. Um, and it really depends on your market, but that is a good generalization for the capitalization rate. So 10%, um, capitalization rate on $9,000 is um, is 90,000. So if I were to buy this house, I would want that house for 90 grand, minus any repairs. I mean, if there's major repairs, you're talking, you know, 20, 30,000, $40,000 in repairs. That's getting into a rehab. There's a whole another spiel about that, and I can talk about that in another video. But yeah, I mean, for just general investment, that's a good ballpark, um, a good way to calculate the value of a home. It doesn't generally work for single family homes for obvious reasons. I mean, getting a $90,000 home, you know, that is, you know, that is single family that would rent for $1,000. I mean, it would be really difficult to get all those numbers to work. Generally, what you're going to see is that a $90,000 single family home is going to be 150, at least in my area. You might see that house 150, and it's just not worth buying. I mean, the capitalization rate would be somewhere around 6%. um, and the way to go backwards on capitalization rate, by the way, is to just divide 150,000 to 9,000, and that would tell you your capitalization rate. So in that case, yeah, it's actually 6%. Sorry, I just had to pull up my phone to get a little calculation because I ain't got that smart. Um, but yeah, so I mean, 6% is not worth it. It's not a good deal. You still make it work, maybe, but I just wouldn't go after deals like that. 8.5 was pretty low on me, and it was like I really fought for trying to get a house for 220 grand, and the most I got was essentially 239, I guess, after seller financing or seller help, but yeah, it's just yeah, it's not an easy calculation, or not an easy yeah. Um, just gotta make sure that your numbers make sense. I mean, that is the biggest part about all this. So um, yeah. Let's see, what do I want to do here? Oh man. Yeah, I think that's my issue. I don't really have. I have like no freaking. Yeah, I have like none. No HQ. Even though it's like a 3-time server, I still am not getting that much HQ out. Jeez. Okay. God. Well, I'm gonna call it. Pretty tired. It's like Forrest Gump. I feel like that guy's gonna come over here soon. Oh yeah. We'll obviously expand on this a bit, 'cause that's just a little story really about real estate. It's not a great detailed stream, to be honest, but yeah, it's first stream, so I'll probably end up deleting this video in the future, I'm sure. I want to get this in a better position. I really feel like he's gonna be shooting us down real soon. I feel like I could trap him probably. You know what I mean? Probably get this shotgun trap in here. Get him to run in. Just get freaking nailed. Yeah, like right there. Like right there. Kind of annoying, but oh man, that is really annoying actually. Way more annoying than I thought. Okay, no, that still works. Alrighty. Yeah, I'll continue some stories here and there. I'll probably repeat things, important topics. I mean, this is just a stream. I would like to actually make a video of actual content in the future. But it's fun streaming too. So, I think once I get people in the chat as well asking questions, I feel like that'll really bring things out. Make this really work. Um, I got a lot of knowledge, obviously. Yeah, I got a little bit of learning curve to try and stay focused on a subject. Man, you hear like a there's a bush move in this game. It's like there's somebody following me. I'm about to get teabagged, and don't want that happening. So, um, but yeah, I mean, honestly, if you like the video, you know, like it. You don't have to subscribe, but if you want to join my, if you want to join my streams, ask questions, send me messages, or comment, and with your questions, and I'll bring them up into future videos. Thanks for stopping by, and hopefully we can enjoy another gaming session next time. See ya.